Welcome back to our channel. Flashbacks came revealing the gruesome experiments that led to the discovery of Najin. In the present, Lady Maeda informs Lieutenant Kato that Ichiro will be sent to Japan, and he must take his place, with the condition that the monster must obey her. Meanwhile, Myongja attempts to escape the police but is captured. Myongja stumbled upon Commissioner Ishikawa. He questions her actions. Commissioner Ishikawa mocks her and orders her into a cage. Enraged, Myongja kills him, but leaves him alive long enough to be taken to the hospital. The police open fire, and Myongja is caged, left to suffer. Tang stops Chaeok as she tries to save her, but she returns home to find a letter from her father, revealing he has entered the hospital to reunite with her mother, leaving her devastated. Lieutenant Kato locks the monster in a cell, but he can't seem to calm down. Lieutenant Kato instructs the officers to find Chaeok, hoping she can help soothe it. Dr. Ichiro is desperately trying to save Ishikawa, but Lady Maeda is determined to have him killed, and it's already in motion. As tensions rise, Lady Maeda discovers a photograph of Chaeok and Myongja, deepening the intrigue surrounding their connection. Lieutenant Kato reveals to Lady Maeda that the monsters still have emotions, and that Myongja can't harm her daughter, Chaeok. Maeda realizes Chaeok is the girl Tang loves. She offers Lieutenant Kato her support in exchange for control over the monster. Chaeok's father sneaks into the hospital, where he sees his wife in her monstrous form. Enraged, he attacks the Lieutenant Kato. Lieutenant Kato, fearing the monster's hunger, orders Chaeok to be brought in, hoping to control the creature. Meanwhile, the doctor poisons the Commissioner Ishikawa under Lady Maeda's orders, ending his life. Tang promises to protect Chaeok, despite her guilt over killing the doctor. They plan to escape the city, but Lady Maeda's men surround them. Maeda accuses Tang of destroying the hospital, but he questions the morality of her experiments. She admits she once liked him, but was always overshadowed, first by Chaeok's mother and now by Chaeok. Tang reassures Chaeok, leading her to a room in the pawn shop filled with precious items. He gives her an opal bracelet, promising that they will live to see a liberated Korea. They share a tender embrace and kiss. Afterwards, Tang departs, followed by Mrs. Nawal. Later, Tang meets with Juntaek, who has recovered and seeks assistance from the rebels to acquire dynamite for a planned attack on the hospital. Meanwhile, Commissioner Ishikawa's funeral is underway, and the police are instructed to officially report his death as honorable. During Ishikawa's funeral, Chaeok manages to smuggle in a gun and shoots Ichiro before collapsing to the floor and then mysteriously vanishing. Tang, alerted to the incident, searches frantically for her, but she seems to have disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, the monster breaks free from the cage, further adding to the chaos. When Tang arrives at the funeral site, Mori informs him of Chaeok's disappearance, adding that an unknown but powerful figure appears to be orchestrating events from the shadows. Later, the police raid the pawn shop, hoping to capture Chaeok. Byomo, having betrayed Tang by reporting his every move to the Japanese, is overheard by Mr. Gu, who listens in on one of Byomo's phone calls. Meanwhile, Jung-won resists as officers try to take him to feed the monster. Maeda visits Tang and coldly urges him to move on from Chaeok, claiming she is dead. Though heartbroken, Tang recalls Mori's suggestion and demands proof of Chaeok's death. Maeda reminds Tang that she orchestrated his rise and warns him not to make an enemy of her. Tang stands up to her, pointing out that her cruelty is the root of his family's betrayal. Maeda, affected by his words, is left conflicted as Tang leads the others back to the pawn shop. Chaeok, previously held by Maeda, has now been transferred to the hospital. Mr. Gu sets out to find her, while Tang and Mrs. Nawal console each other. As this unfolds, Lieutenant Kato and Chaeok's eyes meet in a tense moment, just as the monster breaks free from below, shattering the metal bars in the path. Just then, Chaeok reflects on her childhood dreams of having a happy family and a normal life, dreams that never came true. Maeda mocks her aspirations, revealing that she knew Chaeok's mother, casting an eerie familiarity over her cruelty. Meanwhile, Byomo informs Tang that Maeda has been asking about Chaeok's whereabouts, and he finally discloses that he knows where she is. Preparing for the worst, Tang entrusts the key to the pawn shop to Mrs. Nawal, instructing her to sell it if he doesn't make it back. He bids Juntaek farewell, promising they'll reunite over drinks after everything is over. A rickshaw rolls up to the hospital gate, catching the soldiers' attention, only to explode as they approach it, creating chaos. Elsewhere, Saimoto learns about the monster's husband and daughter, adding a new layer of complexity to the turmoil. Inside the hospital vents, Jung-won and Tang cross paths. Tang updates Jung-won on Chaeok's location, handing him ship tickets to Shanghai and urging him to escape with her. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kato uses Chaeok as a human shield while escaping from the monster. Amid the escalating confrontation, the monster is blasted with nitrogen gas, disorienting him while Lieutenant Kato seizes the remaining vials and makes his escape. Jung-won, sensing that his time is limited, urges Tang to escape with Chok and live the life he deserves, while he himself chooses to stay with the monster. Tang arrives just in time to rescue Chaeok. As Jung-won begins to sing a familiar melody, the monster, drawn by the music, recognizes it and is captivated when he sees Jung-won's necklace, a token from their past. The emotional moment is short-lived as the dynamite Jung-won set detonates, causing a massive explosion that kills the soldiers and devastates the hospital. With the building in chaos, Chaeok learns her father's intentions and urges Tang to escape with her. As they make a run for it, they encounter Saimoto, who discreetly assists in their getaway. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kato is momentarily distracted by Myongja, who is in labor, and pauses to assess the situation. Seizing the opportunity, Tang contacts Mrs. Nawal, who quickly gathers the valuables from the pawnshop and dispatches Biomo to deliver them to him. Unaware that Maeda's men are trailing him, Biomo attempts to evade his pursuers, but soon realizes he's being closely monitored. In a final confrontation, Chaeok insists that Tang leave her to handle things on her own, but Tang refuses, affirming that they're in this together. As they wait for Biomo's arrival, a group of men in black emerges from a car, led by none other than Maeda herself. She confronts Tang, implying that betrayal is nothing new to her, as even Myongja had once been close to her before turning against her. She bids them a cold farewell, setting her men upon them, and Tang and Chaeok brace themselves for a fierce battle. As they flee, the monster, having broken free, rushes to aid Chaeok and Tang, who are both injured from the earlier battle. In the midst of their escape, Chaeok catches a glimpse of her mother, who is wounded. She tries to go to her, but Tang pulls her back, urging her to focus on getting out alive. Confused and still disoriented, the monster perceives Tang as a threat and moves to attack him. Before he can strike, Chaeok steps between them, desperately trying to reason with the monster. She confesses her love for Tang, pleading with the monster to stand down, but in the tense moment, her strength wanes and she collapses, fatally wounded. Tang, devastated, falls to his knees beside her. The weight of her confession and the horror of her loss left him shattered, surrounded by the aftermath of their struggle. The monster, realizing what she's done and overcome with regret, watches in silence as Tang holds Chaeok in his arms, a heartbreaking testament to the sacrifices they made in their fight for freedom and each other. Inside the eerie, dimly lit hospital, a soldier stumbles upon Lieutenant Kato cradling Myongja's newborn baby, who is uncharacteristically still. As the soldier peers closer, a chilling sight emerges. Najin, the ominous entity, visibly writhes beneath the infant's skin, shifting within the baby's head. At Ishikawa's funeral, the mournful ceremony takes a dark turn. Juntaek approaches Maeda with a somber expression, handing her a letter with Tang's name on it. Curiously, she unfolds it to find only the word farewell scrawled inside. Suspicion flickers in her eyes as she begins to notice the subtle but undeniable presence of rebels, including Mr. Gu, scattered among the crowd, blending in with quiet intensity. Her gaze sharpens as she realizes the horrifying truth. The building is filled with dynamite. With a surge of panic, Maeda tries to escape, but it's too late. The rebels give each other knowing nods as the dynamite ignites, engulfing the room in flames. The explosion echoes through the city, signaling both the literal and symbolic end of Maeda's oppressive reign, as the rebels exact their final, dramatic act of resistance. At the bar, Tang and Juntaek share a drink as they'd promised each other. Juntaek has a flashback of confessing that he'd betrayed Tang to the Japanese after being tortured. Tang returns to the pawn shop, still heartbroken and longing for the love he's never received. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kato meets with Maeda, now in a wheelchair with a severely burned face, and offers her a choice: join him in his experiments or leave for Japan peacefully. He leaves a glass of water in front of her before departing. Whereas, underwater, the monster is clutching Chaeok's lifeless body. The monster sacrifices herself by removing the Najin parasite from her brain and placing it into Chaeok, reviving her. The monster then dies, leaving Chaeok alive. The scene shifts to a television program about Korea's history, and as the camera zooms out, someone calls out, "Hojae." The man, resembling Tai-sang, turns toward the sound. Was Najin indeed hiding in Maeda's cup? And if drinking it could transfer the entity to her? With Najin now inside Chaok, her fate is uncertain. Will she become more human than her mother? Or will she follow the same dark path? Share your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more thrilling content.